A push for tax dollars to pay for transportation for charter school students in Nevada. The idea has the support of the governor. And Kim Passoff joins us live in Henderson to break it down.
Yeah, so there are certainly questions about where new school bus drivers would come from. CCSD has had challenges having enough bus drivers for all of its routes since students returned from at-home learning during the pandemic. Still, school choice advocates are celebrating this news as a big win.
In Nevada, we are currently pushing for a school choice as hard as we can.
Valeria Gurr says those fighting for years to increase choices for families in Nevada when it comes to which school their child attends now have a powerful ally.
We have never had the opportunity really to move the needle until Governor Lombardo got into office.
Lombardo pledging to be the governor of education in his State of the State address.
Tonight, I'm proposing the single largest investment in K-12 education and raising the bar on expectations and accountability to the level not yet seen in Nevada. My budget contains $2 billion in new funding for our students.
And Lombardo wants some of that money to go to charter schools. He wants the state to start paying for transportation for charter school students, now publicly announcing his support for Senate Bill 124.
Charter schools do not have a zip code requirement, so you can take your kid to any charter schools.
The issue with that, economically challenged families may not have access to charter schools because they may be too far away. The Lombardo-supported proposal to provide public funding for charter school transportation could change that.
Allowing for transportation will essentially help parents so they can have access to charter school wherever we have openings.
But a big problem, according to some, there are not nearly enough charter schools to meet demand.
Right now, we simply don't have enough. There's long waiting lists in all the charter schools, and we need to continue growing them.
And here at Slam Academy in Henderson, according to their website, tonight is the last night to enter their lottery to potentially be a student for the next school year. Reporting live tonight in Henderson, Kim Passoff, Fox 5 News, local, Las Vegas.
Governor Lombardo says he plans to use education funds from the mining tax to make this plan a reality, and he plans to work with the legislature to get it done.